Hello everyone. Welcome to my Kick Your Java EE development a notch with M2E WTP. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Bricon. I'm French. I work on JBoss tools and Developer Studio for Red Hat. Basically, I work on Maven tooling. And JBoss tools and Developer Studio are Eclipse plugins designed to help Java EE developers to improve their productivity. So that's what I do for a living. I've been involved in M2 Eclipse since 2008, and I'm the project lead for the Maven integration for WTP, M2E WTP. And I'm also a committer on the M2E project, which is the Maven integration, the core stuff. So this presentation, in this presentation, I'm going to talk about M2E WTP, what it is, and I'm going to present a few features that if you're developing Eclipse projects which are not Maven project, with Maven you might find some interesting features that might help you build better or ease your development. So we're going to talk about the Java EE project conversion feature that was introduced lately in M2E WTP, and two other features that are interesting in terms of development, dynamic resource filtering and war overlays. And finally, we'll see what's next, and if we have time, some Q&A. So M2E WTP, basically, it configures your WTP environment, your web tool project environment. So it reads the Maven configuration from the POM.xml and configures the equivalent WTP facets on your Eclipse projects. So most Java EE project types are supported. We have dynamic web project support, EJB, EAR, application client, connector, web fragment, and the only thing we don't support are EJB client, which is a packaging in Maven that we have trouble supporting in M2E WTP. The plugin M2E WTP also participates in incremental builds, so it allows, well, it generates resources just like manifest.mf, does resource filtering, I'm going to talk about later. And it also participates in deployment. So if you want to deploy an EAR project or a web project, basically it's going to tell WTP what to deploy and where. And also the first feature I'm going to present to you is it helps you convert legacy Eclipse projects to Java EE Maven packages. So the whole presentation will be heavily demo focused. So there are not many slides. I hate slides. So I'm going to present all the three main features in 3 slides. So the project conversion, it leverages a new conversion API introduced in M2E 1.1. Basically, when you try to convert your project to Maven, we're going to look at the packaging that you set and look at the Eclipse settings that exist on your project. And from all this information, we're going to translate everything into Maven plugin configurations. But two things you should know. The current state of the conversion API does not cover the conversion of class paths or project dependencies. So if you have Java projects and you want to convert them to Maven, the class path dependencies won't be converted to Maven dependencies. It's as simple as that. And also, the current state of the project does not try to refactor the project structure. Eclipse has some default regarding the project structure. So for instance, for dynamic web projects, the web resources are stored in the web content folder, and Maven stores the equivalent stuff in src main web app. So we don't try at that point to refactor the stuff. So the conversion stuff is reading all the Eclipse settings and translating that to Maven configuration. And next thing is dynamic resource filtering. So once you have converted your project to Maven, you can start looking at cool features that Maven brings to you. So one use case is you need to deploy different content, content, depending on some preconditions in your work environment. So, for instance, you want to be able to enable a development mode versus a production mode that you don't need to use when you're developing on your Eclipse IDE. Maven allows you to do that during a command line build. So this happens during a complete build. But since Eclipse IDE does incremental build by nature, M2E WTP gives us the ability to do this filtering incrementally. So that gives you dynamic resource filtering. And under the hood, the Maven resources plugin is invoked. So, Eclipse IDE doesn't know how to do filtering, but we tell Maven to do it instead. And the Maven resource plugin is pretty smart in the sense that it detects only the resources that have been modified and treats them accordingly. So basically, the resource filtering is you have some file, and the file contains placeholders. It pretty much works like a templating system, and the context you're going to inject in your template is the build context, so the Maven properties and so on and so forth. And another cool feature is the war overlay stuff. So the use case we're looking at is you want to share common resources across different projects in your organization. So for instance, you're working in a big company. That company has some branding, CSS, logos, whatever. And you don't want to manually update each and every of these files in your web apps. So what you want to do is reference some remote content containing everything, and these resources will be injected into your deployed application. So the M2E WTP project supports both overlaying of projects, workspace projects, so they're open in your workspace, or archives, dependencies that are not open in your project. And it also supports incremental deployment. So that's something that doesn't exist if you try to do that in a Maven command line build. The other interesting things are the exclusion of resources from overlays. So for instance, the dependencies you're injecting contains too many things, so you want to restrict what's deployed in your application to a few files. You can do that if you want. And so if sometimes the same file exists in your project, in your main project, and in the resource you're overlaying, the first occurrence wins. So if I depend on a remote zip containing a CSS, and the same CSS exists in my project, then my project is going to be deployed instead. It makes sense. And finally, all these resources can be overlaid anywhere in the deployed tree. So if you have a zip containing CSS at the root, you can tell Maven to deploy all these CSS under a /css/something/something tree. So that could be interesting, and really, if you want to share resources in your organization. So now I'm going to demo a web application. It's a Java EE6 application using JAX-RS as a backend for REST services. And the front end uses AngularJS, which is a Google JavaScript framework from Google. And I'm going to show you, well, how to convert the legacy, the Eclipse project to Maven. And then we're going to show you how to use dynamic web resource filtering, switching between different modes, production mode, development mode. And we'll see how we can use overlays in the context of the IDE. Oops. So I have my web app. So this is a to-do application. It's deployed on a JBoss server. I just discovered the server using this wizard. Download additional server adapter. You can find the JBoss server adapter. The only thing that is not standard in the WTP distribution here is a JBoss plugin I installed to handle profile management. I'm going to show you that later. So the application is based on Angular. It contains a template using underscore and uses Bootstrap for the nice UI. Yeah.
Can you please
Zoom.
increase the size of the font?
You want me to zoom? That's what you want? You want me to zoom?
Yeah.
Well, if I know how to do that, I can do it.
Window preferences font. Yeah. And then type font.
Where?
It was alright. Yeah.
Someone told me there's a plugin that when you switch between presentation mode and Eclipse. Sounds good. Because we all know this.
No, you need to apply.
Okay, good. Thanks. Okay, so we have a classical web app, and it depends on JAX-RS. So the dependencies are brought by the JBoss runtime, and so since it's using JSON, we have the JSON mappers in the web app webinf lib folder. So let's take a look at the app. And starting. Here. Yeah, starts well. Starting the server should help. So we have a to-do list app. Super impressive. And it doesn't work for some reason. I love demo gods. Doesn't matter. That's not what's important. So what we want to do is convert that application to Maven. So I'm going to hit configure convert the Maven project. I'm going to select a group ID, which is the namespace under which the project is created. So that usually is the namespace of your company or something like that. So let's say org Eclipse demo to do, and the packaging is a war. So that tells us that the conversion API is going to look at, since it's a war, we're going to look at the facets that are installed on the to-do project. And once you converted your project, so you see the POM XML that is created just references the source folders that exist already. And since the source folder contains also non-Java resources, we also have this resource node there. The Maven compiler configuration, so we compile to Java 1.7, so that makes sense. And the Maven war plugin configuration, so the war source directory is web content, so that matches to what Eclipse creates by default. And we also have the fail on missing web.xml flag set to false because we don't have any web.xml. So you notice the project does not compile because since it's now a Maven project, we need to set the dependencies. So as I said earlier, the dependencies are not, well, they're not covered by the conversion. So I'm going to cheat a bit and copy the required dependencies to my POM. There. So I can also delete what's the GBoss runtime. I don't need it anymore because I depend on the Maven build path. And the lib folder here that contains the Jackson mappers. The app restarted automatically. Yeah, it works. Finally. Okay. That's magic. So it didn't work within Eclipse, but Maven works. Go figure. So now we have a Maven project. That's all good. Now let's take a look at what we can do to improve. Improve is a big word, but how we can leverage this new Maven features that are available to us. So I want to, for instance, display the project version in the title. So I can add the project version from Maven. And if I switch, you see it doesn't work. And that's expected. Okay, what happens is I need to tell Maven and M2E WTP to activate the resource filtering. So I need to change my POM XML in the war plugin. I'm going to add configuration that says web resources. And there. I added a resource node. So I'm going to use the web content folder, activate filtering on all HTML files. I save the POM, refresh, and here I go. See the title? That's awesome, right? So let's do something more interesting. Let's take a look at the POM. What I want to do now is I'm developing my application. So I want to be able to, for instance, in the index.html file, I want to be able to debug my JavaScript libraries. So here you can see that the files are minified, so it's not going to be easy to debug. What I can do is use a non-minified version when I'm developing in Eclipse, and in production I can use the minified version. So let's add some magic. Let's call it resource extension. And I can do that on the Bootstrap file too. And if I look at a page, everything breaks. And that makes sense because these properties that do not exist yet. So we're going to add them using some profiles. So I'm going to create a profile, the dev profile that contains the resource extension, which is empty. And let's say I'm in development mode. I can also add something like blurb. Yeah, blurb. I'm running in run mode. And I can put all these properties by default. Oops. By default, in what is actually the production mode, the default stuff. So this is.
You have a typo. Yeah. And you have to end the proper blurb.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll fix that. Thanks. Development, and I'm in production here. And I'm using minified extensions. And when I'm in production mode, I don't want to display anything. So that's my modification in the POM. And here I can add something like the blurb. And what happens? I'm in production mode, right? I didn't activate the development profile. So now I could activate that profile using properties, Maven, and go there. But that's not fun. So that's where the JBoss plugin enters. So I just type Control-Alt-P, and I have a nice UI to activate my profile. Yeah. So if I take a look at the page source, I can see that the files are not minified anymore. And so you can do that on any resources that is not a binary. So if you want to activate some flags on your web.xml file, you can do that too if you want. So now let's take a look at the overlay stuff. I'm going to do that, close that one. So I'm going to add a dependency to something that is not open in my project, which is common resources. Yeah, 2M would be better. This common resources dependency is since the project is closed in the workspace. So this is an artifact in my local repository. So under the hood, M2E WTP creates an overlays folder here and unzip the file. And the file contains Bootstrap, new Bootstrap CSS. So if I refresh my application, nothing happens because, as I said, the resources in my workspace project, the main workspace project, they take precedence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move them around and see what happens. So and it's not working. That's awesome. I love that. Okay. Let's try extension. Let's restart. Full publish. This is scary. So I can change. I can change the content of my application by getting extra resources outside my project. So this is nice. And if I open the project now, and say I want to change the Bootstrap theme. So let's take Slate. This works. I'm happy about it. So I can. You see the changes I make in my overlay project. They are deployed instantly. Well, whatever. I have what else? Serially. So this way, you see how you can share command resources across your organization. I don't have any logos there, but you could do that. Logos. So CSS or logos, they're just one part of the equation. You can do whatever you want. You can have more complex stuff like complete application containing jars or other pages. I have something else here. I've got some monitoring page. It just analyzes the state of your application, the JVM, some JVM informations and whatnot. So what happens if I add this monitoring dependency to the command resources? Whoa. Okay, I think the database is not restarted properly there. So I've got snoop.jsp. And here it is, my extra, this is like Inception, the movie. So a dream within a dream within a dream. So here we have a web app within a web app within a web app. So I think it's about time for the demo. Let me finish talking about what's next. So the project is currently in incubation at the Eclipse Foundation. We're at the version 0.16. We're hoping to hopefully jump up or the Kepler simultaneous release train next year. And over time, we'll probably get better documentations. And JBoss and Red Hat agreed to give to the M2E WTP project some new configurators for Java EE development. So we'll have in the next future JPA, JAXers, or JSF configurators. So whenever you have a dependency to any of these kind of artifacts, the proper configuration will be set up automatically in your Eclipse project. So There are a few links if you're interested in the project, if you want to submit bugs, contribute to the project, feel free, please. So if you have any questions now, yeah.
Usually there is a problem between those two directory layouts, Maven and WTP. And here you show how to squeeze Maven in a way that it understands, or how to squeeze Maven form in a way that it understands the WTP layout. And usually when I'm doing it, I structure my project in a way as it is by default understood by WTP. Why do you prefer that way?
I don't prefer that way. This is the default way of Eclipse. So it's not my personal taste. It's just that currently we decided, I made the conversion API and I wanted to start simple. So the simple stuff is to take what exists and apply it directly as a Maven configuration. So in the future, I'm planning on adding some refactoring. So the idea would be you want to convert your project? Fine. We'll have a list of conversion participants, and the web project conversion participant will see that the web content folder doesn't match the Maven default. So do you want, as a user, to convert your structure to follow the Maven default? So that's in the future. Anyone else?
In the slide before, I think I saw it's a future feature to convert projects to JPA projects and to JPA facet.
Yeah. This exists already in Jebel's tools.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a conversion, it's the configuration.
The configuration of the project.
Yeah.
Adding of the JPA facet.
So basically that means that if your project contains a persistence XML, then we add the JPA facet.
Yeah. Is this part of the WTP feature, or is it another Maven?
No, the three configurators I mentioned there, they exist already in Jebel's tools. Yeah. So if you're using Jebel's tools or JBDS, you have access to that. But we're planning on contributing them back to the Eclipse Foundation, to the M2E WTP project.
Okay.
So if that's okay with you, thanks for attending.